This is the Griffin Realty Group Ask-A-Griffin podcast, episode number 18. In this episode, we'll answer the question, marketing. How do you attract multiple buyers? Are you a home seller or home buyer who has questions about selling or buying residential property, but you can't find an easy way to get your answers? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Griffin Realty Group and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future, you can take advantage of our free step-by-step guides that are waiting for you at griffincourses.com. All right, let's get started. I want to answer this question here. In the marketing segment of our series, how do you attract multiple buyers? Who doesn't want to do that, says every seller, right? I would love to have multiple buyers bidding on my property. Well, let me just tell you that I have vast experience when it comes to marketing to get multiple buyers, including having been fortunate enough to work with A&E, yes, the TV channel, to do an 8-episode series where we cut the price in half, did extensive marketing, and created a bidding frenzy that worked the price up to and above what probably was market value. So we knew how to maximize the value of a property. Now that's a very aggressive technique that not everybody needs to use, nor does everybody have the stomach for that kind of process, and they don't believe it's anything other than a gimmick. Well, not true, but let me glean from that experience some of the things that I learned along the way, all right? So the first one has to do with price. And what I say is avoid overpricing or all of your marketing will fail. Let me just first really emphasize how pricing it right is really part and parcel a very serious piece of marketing, because it is almost like the gateway to even get to marketing. You hear sellers ask all the time, well, how are you going to market my property? As if it's some sort of a test that we're lining up all the realtors who we are interested in potentially having list our home, and that's the singular question that they're supposed to magically answer. And what it's done to the industry, it has allowed perception to rule how we speak to sellers. And I don't like that, because it's the worst thing that a seller could get is just marketing advice. You need an entirety of the process plan and advice in each segment so that as you go along the process of selling your property, you understand the role of marketing. So it is very important to reference that overpricing, even by several percentage points, can be the difference in rendering any kind of marketing no good, a fail. It won't work at all. Let me give you the extreme example, and then let me back into it so you understand where I'm coming from. In the marketplaces that I cover, Cape Cod and downtown Boston, there's a pretty big variance. In downtown Boston, I call it a have-to-have place. You have to live there because there's so much commerce, business activity that people have to live there. So the real estate there tends to be very strong. Even during recessionary type times, it's still relatively very strong. On Cape Cod, that is a secondary marketplace where you don't have to be. It's a luxury to be on Cape Cod for most people. Obviously, those that live there, it's not a luxury. It's a have-to-be place. But overall, the effect is, especially at the high end, it can vary very much so. The market can expand at the high end. It can contract very quickly. So what's the point? The point is, in Boston, for example, during the last run-up of the marketplace being strong, most properties sold on average, well, let's just say, on average, at 102% of their last asking price. So they were all being bid up by multiple buyers by about 2%. Well, now, post-pandemic, as I'm recording this and other things that happened, they're now below 100% of the asking price, but not by a lot, somewhere around 2%. But think about what I'm saying. I'm talking about a spread from a really, really good time to a very, very difficult time of only 4%. So that in and of itself is demonstration of the sensitivity of finding the right price, where the spread on average is only plus or minus 2%, at the last asking price. Okay. Let's go to Cape Cod. And by the way, that most of Boston would be considered luxury because even entry level there is luxury in most marketplaces for that price range. But let's go to Cape Cod. On average, over the years, you see, first of all, many more months worth of supply. You can go from a slow market in Boston with 3 months or so of supply of residential property to Cape Cod where there's 8 months of supply. So that's going to have an effect on how effective pricing and marketing is anyway. So these are all market statistics that we have to deal with before we can even consider marketing. See where I was going with this subject? It's much more complex than you think, but easy to understand. So the idea is, if I look at Cape Cod, I can see most properties selling somewhere around 96 to 97% of their asking price. Their last and final asking price, meaning if they were reduced down, which is a key point too, you didn't give it away, quote unquote. You only gave up on average about 3 or 4%. But at luxury, because there's so many fewer, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, correct English, there are fewer buyers at luxury. So, for example, I looked at a property in the range of $7.5 million. There were only 6 properties in the entirety on the south shore of Cape Cod across about 4 towns that sold over 12 months. It's not that many. So it becomes more difficult to understand what is affecting that outcome other than price and starting there first. Could be marketing, might not be though. So now I come back after saying all of that. If you overprice it, all of a sudden you're way out of the range. And that's very tricky at that luxury range on the Cape because you're talking about 11% below the last asking price on average for luxury. Well, that's a really high number. So now we're trying to be close enough where you can be out of the range very quickly at luxury, and now you're blaming marketing. So, point taken, right? Pricing is the gateway into effective marketing. Otherwise, it's all rendered a moot point. But the next point is, if you want multiple buyers after we get through that part of it, and you know, by the way, if you know you have the right price if there are inquiries. And by the way, stop all of you agents that are trying to monopolize, well, we do more than everybody else. No, you don't. You list more than everybody else. But the fact is, the multiple listings system and marketplace is still the prime mover for properties. 88% of properties are sold from one broker to another, not in-house. Okay? So let's just tell the truth about how this really works. But once we get beyond all of that, now what are you doing for the next point here to push market? See, we all love to go out, and I obsess over the quality of the pictures. I own the website company that runs the website for Griffin Realty Group. So I'm very in deep on digital marketing. So the very basics on marketing would be to present it as best you can digitally, because most buyers, somewhere in the high 90 percentile, are going to go look at your property online first. And if it has not been professionally done at the maximum level, and then the pictures aren't in storytelling form, nobody can follow the narrative digitally and get involved, especially on a tiny cell phone. So it's very important to understand that you have to have this package done correctly. But next, you have to push. So we have the right price, the right digital package. Now you have to push. And I know a lot of sellers say, well, nobody's going to come to my open house. That's not right. Push marketing is very much about the open house. I know everybody loves to dismiss it because agents will dismiss it because they don't want to do it. Perhaps they're lazy. I don't know, but they don't want to do it. I can't wait to do it on any listing, because push marketing means several things. One, I'm getting in my car, putting my shoes on, and going to work to try to make a market for that property. That's marketing in a different sense. I'm trying to actually make the house a marketplace where multiple buyers can come through the door. So again, presuming I have a good price, presuming it's beautifully digitally marketed, presuming that makes the basic online interest high. If I open the doors, I have a chance to bring multiple buyers in at once. Even if there's just 2 at a luxury house, that's a multiple buyer situation. I'm not saying it's a multiple offer, but you have to walk through the steps to get there first, okay? I call that push marketing. Now, the obvious way to get even more buyers to an open house or more buyers inquiring online is to push it around on social media, to get that story told, to maybe do a virtual open house when nobody's around. For example, on Cape Cod, people go away for the winter, but you can still talk to them by pushing this content out there. So push marketing has everything to do with physically trying to move the product and digitally trying to push it around and get it in front of the right audience and then keep it in front of them. That's a term that I came up with called push marketing. A lot of us talk about, it's going to be in this magazine and that. Come on now. That's just not the way property's sold anymore. It's do these things correctly and get bodies through the house. And if you can get bodies through the house, back-to-back showings, multiple people coming through open house, you're creating that marketplace. Okay? So very important. Now, the next thing is, if you want to get multiple offers, you're not making this up, but the sense of urgency is important. When an agent calls, a smart buyer's agent will say, how's the traffic on the property? How long has it been? And be transparent with those buyer agents and be transparent with those buyers that ask that. Say, we've had very good traffic. We've had about 4 people through today, several people coming back for a second look. You're creating excitement about this property by being transparent. Now, I will tell all you realtors out there, don't make that up. It either is or it isn't. In fact, sellers, listen to me here, please. If the truth is that nobody's coming to the open house, nobody's reacting to the property online, there are no co-broke inquiries, which is 88% of the time, you have a pricing problem. And all this effort to market it is, again, rendered moot. Point. We don't even talk about marketing until we get the price right. I can't stop overemphasizing that. It's so important that you get that right. But that last point there, being transparent about the buyer traffic with all the buyers who come through or inquire and all the buyer agents, creates a sense of urgency. Just be careful, all you realtors out there, that you don't overplay that hand. What you're looking for is the best qualified buyer who has true, genuine interest, because the flip side of multiple buyers and multiple offers is that oftentimes people are triggered by the pure competitive moment and they're not really the most serious buyer. In fact, some will nefariously try to tie the property up by making an offer and figuring, we can always get out of it later with one of these contingencies. As a buyer's agent, don't do that. Try to make sure your buyer is truly interested in the property. You're wasting your own time. And if you're a seller's agent, for sure, or the listing agent, for sure, vet everybody before you have your seller say yes. And sometimes the price that was offered is bait to get them to bite, only for a renegotiation to drive everybody crazy or a deal blow up. Coming fresh off of one of those about 2 weeks ago. Okay? All right. So let's go through this as a summary. The question I wanted to answer in this episode relates to our marketing series. How do you attract multiple buyers? Ironically, I have to start with avoid overpricing or all your marketing will fail. But once you get that, it's the concept of pushing your digital package out there and doing your open houses or anything physically you can do to bring buyers through at the same time. And lastly, be transparent with everybody. If it is a hot property, tell everybody that. Just make sure that you vet all the buyers properly so that if you are in a multiple offer situation, you're choosing or helping the seller choose the best buyer who will consummate the sale and bring it to the closing table. All right, let me chunk it up by saying this. While all sellers would love to attract multiple buyers, they often fail to realize that a core principle of marketing their home starts with setting the asking price inside the right range so that push marketing can create traffic where multiple buyers are attracted to create a competitive bidding environment. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the very near future by getting our free step-by-step guides that are waiting for you over at griffincourses.com. That's GRIFFIN courses.com. Also, don't forget, you can I'll say that quickly again. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen so that you don't miss out on any insights each time we upload an episode. And we go deep. We're in a big seller series right now, so if you just go back in time, you'll see they're in order of our plan. We also post all of our episodes on social media channels, so remember, turn on those notifications for Griffin Realty Group and you won't miss any of the reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content with other people that need to buy or sell soon, especially, so that they get the help that they need. Thank you for listening. Remember, nobody's coming for you, so go get to work on a plan to buy or sell so that you can be successful. And I'll see you in the next episode.